That kind of feels like your answer to like how complicated is the power system going to be.
Welcome to Volume 1, the Anime and Manga Podcast, where we usually review the first volume of a brand new manga each week. My name is Josh, Kaku Michaels, and today, as always, I am joined by
Megan, Urara, Perrine.
Cody, I want to be a manga protagonist, Decker.
Yes. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. We're calling this Volume Jump because we are covering the first chapter of new releases, specifically new releases that may fall in the category of a Shonen Jump release, a Viz release, just any sort of new trending series. And nothing has seemed like it's been more trending recently than Ayashimon, which is a new manga. Only the first chapter is out as of this recording by Yuji Kaku, the mangaka of Hell's Paradise, who was an assistant to Fujimoto, who we all know from Chainsaw Man. Everybody's been going crazy about it, asking us if we were going to, react or review or just share our feelings on the first chapter. Again, you can get it for free right now on the Shonen Jump app. What do you guys think? How did you guys feel? And we do have Hell's Paradise videos on our channel too. If you'd like to see any of those videos, you can click somewhere up here.
The first series we reviewed in its entirety.
Yeah. Yeah, either the first or one of the first, but
we probably did something else.
I think we did.
We definitely did other things. Never mind.
Yeah, but it was one of our first, volume done reviews. So we have a series review on our channel that you can look at and check out. But compared to Hell's Paradise, how did you guys feel about this? And as far as the hype goes, do you feel like it's deserving of all this hype? And how did you feel about it?
I thought it was very similar to Hell's Paradise, how it starts. It just seemed like it was going more into comedy. I thought there would be more hype for Chojin X or something as opposed to this.
Well, there was.
I'm not exactly sure where all the hype is.
I think a lot of people, because obviously the Fujimoto connection and because of just, Chainsaw Man. And it's so funny that since Chainsaw Man came out, everybody is constantly calling the next big thing a substitute or something that can fill the hole of the Chainsaw Man void in everybody's heart. Like they said that sort of about Dandadan when it came out, which if anything is, Dandadan kind of is.
I would say Dandadan's the Chainsaw Man, not competitor, but something that like can rival like the feeling of it.
Yeah.
This felt like Hell's Paradise mixed with like the beginning of Chainsaw Man if you replace like the drama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the setup of like this guy on his own who like gets like a position felt very similar.
And as far as Yuji Kaku's art goes, like it's the closest out of everybody, I think, to feeling like Fujimoto in art style. It is very distinct. It is very different, but does have that like sketchiness, and it does have like, what feels like similar ish ways of like drawing characters.
There's like a little more depth to backgrounds. Something about that like changes like the feeling of a story.
Yeah, it's very gritty.
Yes.
And I think people are comparing it to Chainsaw Man obviously because you have like similarities, like the grittiness, like the demons or like monsters are involved, like the Yakuza kind of like that type of like people in power with things that shouldn't be in power, like devils or like stuff like that. And it's like a modern day setting too. So I think that's maybe where it's coming from. But overall, like I was seeing this all over Twitter right when it came out. The day of, everyone was freaking out about it because I mean, honestly, like the pictures that they were putting out to hype everyone up. I mean, they do look phenomenal. Like I was excited. Like the two main characters, one looks a little bit like more basic, but Odara is like, she looks awesome.
Also a short female protagonist.
Yeah. And I love her hair and her kimono
on point.
And her teeth. Like she just really is, I think, the poster child for this manga thus far.
I will say that while Hell's Paradise, spoiler alert if you haven't seen our videos on that series, did feel like it was a series that I really did like, but I felt like was a little too long. Compared to other manga, it's actually pretty short.
And it has an ending.
And it has a very definitive ending, but
which wasn't like disappointing because a lot of mangas usually have disappointing endings for me if they go on for too long.
Yeah, we've talked about it in those videos, but it did feel like some of the fights were just drawn out a little too long, and it could have been such a more like impactful story had it been just shortened. I would say by like 1 or 2 volumes even. Having said that, it was really, really good. Gabimaru, I'm comparing Gabimaru to our protagonist Maru. or Maruo here.
You kind of start on the opposite note, where instead of him being like attacked and surviving, you get a guy who's like offensive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not offensive to your taste or mine, but like as opposed to defense, offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was very worried going into it once I figured out that he was a main character that wanted to be a manga protagonist. Like that was his like motivation. When I first read that, I was so afraid that this was going to be awful. But because of his character and because of like his attitude and because of just like there's little subtleties with how he handles things and does things that it did end up winning me over. But I always feel like that is such a dangerous quality to give to. It's like too meta.
Yeah, there's a danger of like, look how quirky I am.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous thing to want to have your protagonist do, because it's just like, oh, you think you're the one to think. Not that that's what happened here, but just like that's the danger of it.
Yeah.
That's where like, because I was worried about that, and then I saw him training, like, oh, it's a comedy.
Yeah.
That's because like in One Punch Man, the art style is more goofy, so it's easier to tell. But in this one, I'm like, because it's drawn so well, it's hard to tell that like, oh, this is like a kind of a parody a little.
Yeah, maybe a parody. It definitely is referencing in one specific panel like JoJo.
Yeah, they say actual protagonist. They show him training. It's like, well, that's not realistic. So I'm now entering my mind into like, this is an absurd setting.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the hard part going through this chapter, is figuring out what even is this. Which is the thing with this author, is he has it's not very straightforward stories with him. He'll go like around and like he'll bounce into this territory and then into that territory.
Yeah. How else did you feel about it, Megan? Outside of the character design, the story, the protagonist thing, how did you feel when reading this chapter?
I mean, honestly, it was a very well execution of like what a first chapter should be. It sets up the story. It kind of sets up what he's going to be doing, what he's going to be involved with, what he's going to be up against. So I did like it, and the ending of the first chapter was a pretty good hook, I would say. I did like when, not to go into too much detail, but him realizing like, oh, this is exciting for me, versus like him being like, scared or like, wavering on his decision that he's gonna like make, because he just goes like all in like right away. And I thought that was interesting. I did like the character when he like realizes like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah, it is bordering on comedy a lot, and using comedy a lot.
Yeah. Well, just because that's the part that reminded me of One Punch, where he like fantasizes about like getting like challenged.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, this, and instead of like that just actually happens.
Yeah. And I can't get it out of my head ever since you said it, but I do think that like as a first chapter, I think, something like Chojin X was to me a more solid first chapter. They're two completely different stories. They do have, I think, some similarities, but I did overall think that this was very fun, and I did like, while I was weary or wary going into it, I just say both.
You'd best be
you
wary.
just say both.
Yeah,
you just say both just to cover.
But I was won over, and I think it was because of this like protagonist, his charm. But expectations, is it something you're going to want to continue reading, you think?
It had a charm to it. But I was more hyped about like Chojin X just because, but also like that was more of a straightforward story. So it focused more on characters, whereas this focused more on like, here's like what he can do, and then here's like this world setting up. I'm interested to see how he's gonna handle a power system now that he's finished Hell's Paradise. If he's gonna like carry over how complicated he made that, because it took a while to process how it mapped out a very complicated power system with all these rules. So is he just gonna like be like, I'm gonna tone that down, or is he gonna be like, well, this guy has this, and now wait till you see everything else?
I was exactly. Like that was not my like main concern, but it would be so cool if this is more just, here you go, versus like every detail needs to be explained, because it was like, that was a part of Hell's Paradise that wasn't like all that interesting just to me personally. So if you could just tone that down, because imagine if Hell's Paradise was a little bit more toned down with that, and maybe a little shorter.
That's what bogged it down, I feel like.
And yeah.
So for what that's where it's like, maybe comedy is not the right word, but like showing that like, oh, how'd this guy get super strong? Oh, he just trained to do it because he wanted to be a protagonist. That kind of feels like your answer to like how complicated the power system going to be here. Yeah. Which is going to be like, he's super strong.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing that would be like, it would be like kind of like a Jujutsu Kaisen situation where it's like, oh, further down the line you realize like why he's this way.
I could see, especially with stories that start off meta like this, it could be that like, oh, you thought this was all. He's like, I thought this was all fun and jokes, and like, no, you're connected to the spirit Tao of metal, and don't get near wood because then that.
Yeah. No, I think you guys are absolutely right, and I am excited to see where he takes it, what he chooses to tone down or amp up, or what direction he ends up going. I do love his art. I do love his, way of writing character and story. I'm just going to continue, I think, out of curiosity.
Well, I have to know how the volume wraps up, because this does, like Megan said, it's a great setup chapter, similar to Chainsaw Man. It sets up abilities and it sets up the position he's going to be in moving forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, that actually, it's very similar. Maybe does this guy know Fujimoto?
He was he was a close personal friend and assistant.
Yeah. And it is fun to have like a first chapter out and then catch up on the chapters each week instead of reading a full volume and getting the whole, because then you're excited. Like, it's not just like, oh, it's right here, I can just read it. It's like, oh, next week I have something to look forward to.
Yeah, I forgot how it's like you'll have that feeling and then like that series ends and you're like, I forgot what it was like to it's Thursday. You know what that means. Yeah. And then instead you're just like, yeah, I read it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let us know what you think of Ayashimon, if it's something that you're excited about, if you read it, what you thought about it, and if you're going to continue it or not. We want to do more chapter 1 or like what is kind of coming out currently, sort of volume jump reviews. Let us know if that's something you'd be interested in as well.
Do we want to summarize just what happened in the first chapter, or we want to just talk about our feelings on it?
I think our feelings on it is fine. And it is, I guess if we were to sell it in like 1 or 2 sentences, maybe just in case there is anybody out there who might want to read it, would you want to try it, or do you want me to try it?
I don't. The best I could think of right now is Serious One Punch Man.
Serious One Punch Man. It's about I'll try. My version will just be, I think yours is better, but it's
Sweet.
Just like it's just like, it's like what if every what if a manga fan or anime fan was actually able to train hard enough to do the things that he's seen in anime and manga.
And how that would affect his day-to-day life.
And then you find out monsters are real.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then the bit with comedy, which is with those abilities also just having to like, it's not you can't just do. What do you do then when you have those abilities?
Yeah,
you still have to pay rent. I thought that was where the comedy angle kind of came in, and seeing him be like, oh, this doesn't help you in your day-to-day life at all, actually.
Well, it's like Bochita. Like, it's like Denji, and like he's still poor, even though he has like a devil as a pet. It's just like the magical element of like, these things are real, but you can't get a job because you ruin everything because you're too strong. Yeah. And him just like realizing like having a job is such a good thing, dude. And he like hurts him while he's doing it.
And I feel like it's a dangerous message to have.
Yeah.
I have high hopes for this series. So yeah, let us know what you think of Ayashimon, if you're going to continue it, and if you want to see us do more videos about it when more chapters are released, maybe when a volume 1 is released. But other than that, that is going to do it for what we're calling our first volume jump review, our short chapter 1 discussion and initial thoughts. I guess the only thing left to do now is to get out of here on our outro that's always the same and never changes. Which today is
Ayashimon, I wish there were more chapters.
Ayashimon, I wish there were more chapters. Unless you got something else.
I got nothing else to.
I'm gonna go for it. Thank you for watching.
No, yeah, go for it.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And until next time.
Ayashimon, I wish there were more chapters.
Sometimes it just feels like you back yourself into a corner.
What? It was good.
It was good. It was really good.
It was fantastic.
Thank you.